Seaford community mourning a 16-year-old girl killed in a car crash. High school student Angelia Dominguez was driving on winding Chicken Valley Road in Old Brookdale around 3:30 early Sunday morning when Nassau County police say the car crashed into trees. 3 other teens in the car were hurt.
Disbelief almost that this can happen to such a young person.
If that teen driver has 1 teen passenger, the crash risk goes up by 44%. 2 teen passengers, the crash risk doubles. 3 teen passengers, the crash risk goes up by 400%.
The 3 male passengers, ages 14, 15, and 16, are hospitalized, 1 in critical condition. Dominguez was driving with a learner's permit. Counselors are at the high school helping devastated teachers and classmates.
Since 1926, the minimum age of driving here in the United States has been 16. According to the Transportation Department, people aged 16 to 18 has a rate of 7.2 deaths or serious injuries for every 10,000 drivers. For drivers aged 19 and above, that number is 3.7. It's almost half. In 2005, about 64 out of every 100,000 drivers 16-year-old were involved in fatal accident or death, compared about 59 out of 100,000 17-year-old drivers. Those numbers were in a July report to Congress by National Highway Traffic Safety Administration.
I need the viewers to know what's the driving age in Egypt.
The minimum driving age in Egypt is 18.
Okay. As we lived in a different country, which driving rules do you prefer and why?
I prefer here because I think driving a car shouldn't be related to specific age.
I would prefer the 18 years old because they are more responsible and careful of taking risky actions than the younger age.
Here in the United States, each state has its own driving age. There are 12 states that apply driving age for over 16 years old. The highest state is New Jersey, it's 17. And 6 states under age of 16. The least is South Dakota, 14 and a half years old.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
So I need to ask you first, I'm doing a documentary about increasing the driving age to 18.
Okay.
So what's your opinion about increasing the driving age in terms of not having student cars in the parking lot?
Well, I mean, obviously, if you are going to allow students to drive, that just means more cars on campus, which obviously means more congestion to come in and to leave. So if you were to increase the driving age to 18, that means almost all but the 18-year-olds that are in high school at the time will be able to not drive, which means you're going to eliminate the whole parking. So you will have less parking coming in and coming out, but you'll probably have more parent cars coming in because someone has to drop them off if they live too far away to walk.
Yeah. So do you think there are some advantages of increasing the driving age to 18?
Well, I think the advantage is hopefully you can mature from 16 to 17 and then 17 to 18. 16 years old, some students just may not be responsible or may not be mature enough to be able to get behind the wheel and drive a car because they are not ready for the responsibilities that is required to be a driver. So just my personal experience, even though my kids could have driven, I have 3 kids now, adults, they could have driven at 16. I did not let them drive by themselves until they became 17. So you know how you have a parking permit at 15 and a half years old?
Yeah.
You know, even though they got their parking permit at 15 and a half years old, when they were 16, they still can only drive with a parent from 16 to 17. And then when we as parents were more comfortable that they can drive alone, only when they turned 17, we made a decision to let them drive. They were a little more responsible at 17 than they were at 16.
Sure. So do you think increasing the driving age may lead to a better student performance or better grades?
Well, I mean, if you're looking at motivating behavior, hey, if you do well in school, you'll be able to drive a car. Yeah, I think that works. But there are some students that performance in school and wanting to drive are two different motivations. Some kids will still do good in school because they have high dreams, while others may not do well at school. So I'm not really sure about that one. I'm a little not really sure if it's a cause and effect kind of thing. But I do know that behaviorally, if someone says, if you really want to drive, you have to have good grades for those kids. Yeah, obviously that might help with school performance.
Sure. Do you think that increasing the driving age may lead to decreasing traffic by end of school day, or having less car, or also students will leave campus during lunch or come late to school?
Well, yeah, again, just like I said earlier, I think if you're going to say that only 18-year-olds can drive, you're going to eliminate 90% of the cars, if not more, because anybody under 18, which is the vast majority of high school students, not driving, you're not going to have a need for a senior parking lot or a junior parking lot, so there's going to be empty. Now, whether they leave off campus or not, I don't know. They're going to have to get rides to get off, so that's a whole different kind of problem of having to get a whole bunch of kids that are seniors that may want to get off because they have a senior pass. If they want to get off, we'll have congestion of another type because someone will have to come pick them up, whether it's parents or other family members or whatever.
Yeah, I mean during lunchtime, or they may leave campus during lunchtime.
Yeah, well, here at this campus, it's hard to leave because there's no place to go to in an hour. You can't walk across the street like in some schools. You can walk, maybe a quarter of a mile, and you can get to a store and buy food and stuff like that. Here you can't. Here you got to drive a long ways. And from what I hear, students drive, they grab their stuff and quickly come back on campus because they run out of time. Without the car, they're not going to be able to do that, or without a ride. So they're going to have someone come pick them up if they want to leave campus. So I think we will almost basically put an end to a lot of students leaving campus, seniors leaving campus when they have the ability to without a car, except if you're 18, then you can.
Most states have focused their fixes on giving teens more driving experience before granting them unrestricted licenses. But the new brain research suggests that a separate factor is just as crucial: it's maturity. An 18-year-old driver is considered safer than a 16-year-old driver.
Hi, good morning.
Hello.
So, what's your opinion of increasing the driving age to 18?
I think increasing driving age to 18 is not a good idea.
Why do you want the increase of driving age not be a law?
Because in my opinion, driving a car shouldn't be related with a specific age, but by skills and experience.
So do you think just skills and experience, but not by age, specific age?
Yeah.
What makes you qualified to drive a car without supervision?
Behind the wheel test makes me qualified to drive a car without supervision.
So do you think just behind the wheel test is very perfect to drive a car?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right, because most people that made accidents are learning permit. They only have learning permit. They didn't make the behind the wheel testing. Have you ever had an accident before, or a police officer stopped you before?
No, I haven't had an accident before, but a police officer stopped me because I exceeded the speed limit. Yeah, and driving a car when the light was started to get red.
What are you going to do if you are still below 18 and they made a law saying that people below 18 years old can drive a car?
First, I got to school and worked by my car, but if this became a law, my parents would have to drop me off and pick me up.
New findings from brain researchers at National Institute of Health explain for the first time why efforts to protect the youngest drivers usually fail. The weak link, what's called the executive branch of the teen brain, the part that weighs risks, make judgments, and control impulsive behavior. Scientists at the NIH campus in Maryland have found that this vital area develops through the teenage years isn't fully mature until age 25. One 16-year-old brain might be more developed than another 18-year-old, just as a young teen might be more taller than an older one. But evidence is mounting that a 16-year-old brain is generally far less developed than those of teens just as little older.